Okay. But hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to do my speech in English because that's the international language that we all speak at CERN. Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity for me to be around, to be embedded in this enormous campus. I would like to thank everybody, of course, who made this residency possible, Mr. General Director, of course, the City of Geneva, Canton of Geneva, Cultural Department for the support, and the member of the selection panel. I salute here Madame la Chancelière d'État Ouden Gelpa, and of course Madame Koek and everybody that I saw before. And I have a special thanks to Ariane Koek, which created Collide at CERN, and Merce Monge, who so efficiently organized this event. I would like to thank all the physicists and engineers I had the chance to meet already and that have helped me to begin, and only to begin, to understand their work. And of course, my inspirational partner, Joao, which will talk just after me. Okay, so I'm not really used to do this kind of talks, so that's one of the things I hope I will be learning here. I don't see my image. Okay, thank you. So deconstruct and scale. Ariane told you that I had this 2-day seminar, and it was really actually very intense. Some of the things were just too much for me. But one of the things that came out and was with Luis Alvarez Gaume, which is a theoretical physicist, and he insisted very much about the idea of deconstruct and scale. And I thought, well, that's something I can understand because that's what I do. As a choreographer, I deconstruct movement and I have to scale them and put them into space. Okay, so deconstruct and scale. So I thought Luis Alvarez, unfortunately he's not here tonight, but I'm sure he would appreciate that I turn it a little bit upside down. So I've been impressed, of course, by the size of the campus, but just in general, the size of things here at CERN, because you have the very big and you have the very small. So, yeah, I'm an embedded choreographer. So, actually, it's the largest particle laboratory in the world. It's a unique opportunity. And as an artist, of course, but also as a citizen of Geneva, because I live here. So, every citizen of Geneva would have this opportunity, because we need to know what's going on. And I live over there, on the other side of the lake, just over there. So yeah, the amount of expertise at CERN is just mind-blowing. I mean, all the people that you meet, the very high level, they're the best in their fields. So it's really a high-level, next-level discussion as soon as you start. So the world is a world of experts, but it's also a world of passion, and that's what I realized. They are so passionate about what they do, and that's what we share, because I'm also passionate about what I do. So it's very impressive, and maybe the equivalent for this physicist would be to be embedded in Cinecittà when Fellini was still around. I'm amazed every day. I've been here only for about 30 days. So what do? So I make dance pieces, right? So that means that I organize, I choose the people I work with, the dancers, the artistic collaborators, put everything together, costume, light, and I'm responsible for the artistic direction of the project. So I'm a contemporary dance choreographer, which means I work in contemporary dance, and contemporary dance is contemporary art, so I work with the art I do art that is happening now, and I get my inspiration from what is happening now. And also I try to always be trying to develop new ideas and new languages. Choreographic thinking means that I think as a choreographer, I see the world as a choreographer, and I always imagine things related to movement. a choreographic system. Choreographic system is how I organize my thinking, this choreographic thinking. I have to try to find systems of movements, which I will talk a little bit later about. And choreographic research. So a choreographer is a researcher because part of a contemporary dance choreographer is a researcher because a big part of the process is about research, because we start out from an empty space, which normally is a dance studio. There's nobody inside, a few dancers, and you have to put them into action and then tell them, okay, let's do something. So the research is really part of the creative process and of the production process. But there's not so many opportunities to do fundamental research. We don't really have much context for that, and this is, again, a unique opportunity and a very rare opportunity. In my 15 years career is the first time I have 3 months to dedicate to fundamental research about movement. So for me, choreography is organized motion of bodies through space and time. Space and time, as Mr. General Director said it, of course, that's what we share, that's what we do. We deal with space, we deal with time, and we deal with movement. But also we share the same times, viewer and dancers share the same times together. It's live, it's real time, so what you see is what you get, is really happening at the same time for everybody, and somehow, actually, we grow old together, spectators and dancers on stage. Okay, so when I started, so I get a sip of water. I started doing pieces around 1995. I don't go on with where I started from because I don't have enough time for that. So I did a few solos, 95, 96, and 97. That's when I did my first piece called A plus B equal X. I'm sure many people can understand this here. Okay, so very visual work, suggestive. The body always at the center of my preoccupation, inverse body, deformed bodies, and always this idea of suggestivity. And by suggestivity, I mean it's the idea that that's the spectator that gives the meaning to the image that are presented to him. So I believe that everybody has memories, and by showing them suggestive images, I can trigger those memories, and what they think is what it is. I don't underline and I don't give the full meaning to my work. 1999, brain dance, second group piece, 5 dancers, suggestivity again, body at the center, this time manipulated bodies, used bodies, detached and careful care of the manipulated bodies. A strong piece, at times a bit violent in images. Yeah, exactly. 2001, the movie strip. For me, it was really a big change in the way I was starting to think about my work. Also, my father passed away in 2000, and I think it was also a kind of an homage to his life and work. My father was an abstract painter. I show here one of his paintings, which has something to do also with what we have around here, I guess. Okay, so Meurde strip, you probably all know, most of the people know what a Meurde strip is. A bidimensional geometrical shape that has only one side, so you always stay on the same side, and for me it represents life. And also it's a symbol of infinite and infinity. So for me, it represents life. We are like on a Meurde strip, always going around and never in the same place. Always moving. So the piece was really about movement, continuous movement. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video now. Okay, so I choose to show one bit and not like little different part of the piece. I will put this piece also available online and maybe a few others also if you want to see it entirely. Okay, so in this piece, I started to work differently than I was working before. Before I was more directing what I wanted to do. I was more creating myself the movements. But in this piece, I wanted a different type of emotion. So I want to have like an envelope of qualities. And I wanted the dancer to be in action of decision taking and establishing rules and conditions for them to behave on stage. So is not everything is pre-established. They really take decision live. So you have really thinking bodies in action. So, and I think is always interesting to see people really concentrated and taking decision on stage, and that solve a lot of problems of interpretation because they are very busy doing what they have to do. Is a task-based kind of work. And that's what I discovered, what I called a little bit later organically organized movement, which then I've been using it for quite a long time after that. What I mean by organically organized movement is because I don't want to, it's not improvised, it's a very stable system. So every show that you're going to see is going to be as stable as the one before, but there might be some differences and some variation from one night to another. But it's a very stable system. So it's really a system. And also one of the things is this grid that you can see, you see on the floor. There was this grid that I organized, so the dancers. Well, actually, because I was thinking about, how to represent infinity in a finite space, such as a theater is very difficult because by essence a theater is finite, no? So I thought, okay, see, if I put a grid, then this grid could go on forever and can be infinite. So it was a representation of infinity going through this grid. And actually now, more than many years later, I see other things around here that are kind of connected. Because that's the end of the piece. So inside the grid, then the dancer would cover with just very simple white paper, and it was about a big coming down of light. So we would end up really with almost no light at all, and just like dancer would become creatures just moving like you could barely see them. Okay, Under Construction in 2002, that was the piece that came after that. It was a piece with 7 dancers. Maybe you see what is 5 dancers. I was one of them. Under Construction was with 7 dancers. So this is a kind of a special piece because I discover Craig Reynolds' Boids. Boids are kind of little creature, computer-generated creature, kind of artificial life. So I'm going to try to show you an animation, okay? It's a little applet, okay? So these are Boids. So they are autonomous little creatures, so they only have very simple sets of instruction, which in this case is follow the leader, right? And when I click, if I can get my mouse around, yeah, when I click on it, see they change behavior because they follow the leader. Right, oh, they're lost. Okay, they got him. So now they follow him in a line, yeah? So there's all the, those patterns and crossing. So for me, it's very simple. They use it in video games and many There's many applications, crowd control also. This is quite old, and it's quite amazing because I dig on the internet and I found exactly the same thing that I found back then. So for me it was quite important because that's when I started to understand that I could feed dancers with instructions and that they would totally respect my instruction. I just got to get rid of this. And have some kind of autonomous behavior. So for under construction, under construction, this piece, so it was different than the Möbius strip. The Möbius strip was organized geometrically, auto-organized in space because of the grid. Wherever they would be automatically organized in a geometrical way. Under construction was more about the space between the dancers. So there were more like flocking behaviors, like birds or fishes, and also they had to place themselves with just the general space that they had around them. And this was toward the end of the piece when they would go like under the skin of the theater, which in this case is the dance floor. Okay, that's another image of under construction. Nice jump a little bit, Double Deux. It's a piece I did in 2006 with about 12 dancers, and it was really about, it was a big deceleration, a big slowing down. And I know some people are slowing down particles and around here also, not only accelerating them. It was a big slowing down, and with 12 dancers, basically they were working, let me show you some images. At first they were alone, but then they will be in couple. So the space was, you will see this kind of blue line around, so the space like a sport field will be defined. Their movement is totally defined, so they're like proper choreographed. Some of the movement I choreographed myself, some of the movement they created themselves under my instructions, but they didn't have a fixed space. So their task is really to find their own space live or real time. So it's a bit like running for your life, because you never know what's going to go, who's going to be in front of you. So there's also kind of rules of behavior. And then when they get in couples, then there's all this kind of changing of material and also changing of space. So they always have to look at the couple in front of them. And when the couple in front of them start changing material, after a little while they start changing material, and the next one start to change material. So you always have kind of vast communicating vessels of material, because you have like it's filling up with material, and when you start to come out, then it's like growing and ungrowing, and there's always three different materials at the same time. Well, this is an extract when they're alone, and not when they're in duos. But in 1 minute you don't really see the progression. That was the biggest piece I have produced with my own companies. I did the piece with the Geneva Ballet, and I had about 20-something dancers. That was really nice. But as an independent company, it's not possible. Okay, so Spider Galaxies. Spider Galaxies, this is my last piece. Well, not really, but it's like full-time 1-hour piece. Created in 2001, and it's a new paradigm in my practice, because now, after all these years of working with systems and kind of self-generating environment, I thought it's nice also to have the virtuosity of the dancers, and to have really complex, very composed and very well-knitted choreography, very precise. Because when they know in advance what they do, they are very efficient, super efficient actually, because they are very good dancers. So I need to find a way, how can I generate, movement when you choreograph like traditionally, when you try traditional choreograph, week only takes about 1 minute per day. So you work with the dancers and you make about, at the end of the day, if you have 1 minute, you can be happy. By the time you created it, they learn it and they do it. So that's quite slow. And when you, in this piece, there are 4 dancers or 4 dancers with an individual score. So it's 4 times slower even. And also there is some rules because I wanted to have, there's no repetition, there's no looping, you cannot loop the material, you cannot do more than right, left, you can do right, left, but you can do right, left, this is not allowed. So that creates something that is really like me, the way I'm talking now, is a kind of progression of always ever changing movement. So maybe I can show you a little bit of images and then I keep on. Okay, this one I have to fire it. Okay, I forgot to mention before, when I showed the Möbius tube, the music was composed by Franz Streichler, and we mentioned that he's somewhere here in the house. This music, actually, Christian Vogel and Carla Scaletti, but Carla Scaletti, she used some of the data from the LHC to compose the music using some sonification process. So it's quite interesting. I cannot really point you out exactly which part because they're kind of spread out into the piece, but quite interesting. So where was I? Yeah, okay, so we started, so I wanted to have movement generators. So movement generators, what I call movement generators, is like they use in electronic music. They have those little engines that kind of do things with, you know, based on algorithm, and you put a sound and there's transformation, it becomes something else. But it can be like a really tiny, tiny, tiny particle of sound that becomes almost like a symphony. So I thought, how could I apply this kind of style to dancing to have something that is really kind of precise? So we tried using computers and all different processes, which I will not develop here, but it was not very concluent because it was too slow, and actually instead of creating more movement, we were creating every time less movement, so that was not really the point. So suddenly I had this illumination, and I realized that instead of using machine to tell the dancers what to do, it would be much better to program directly the dancers. Because the dancers are first they are intelligent, and then they have a lot of capacities, they have their skills, but also they can do maybes, they can do more or less, and even when there is a problem, they can use their own creativity to find a solution. So they were much more efficient. So I started to bring them source material, and the source material was photos. So I used about I didn't count exactly, between 700 and maybe 900 photos. To create most of the piece. And it was quite amazing because the material that they were creating was influenced, of course, by the source images that were carefully chosen, and because it was a piece about memory, I think. So it gives this kind of subliminal images that pops out. You don't really know what they mean, but you feel kind of related to your own experience. So now I'm going to show you, because we made a little demonstration, because we also do try to explain with visualization what we do. So we encrusted the photos, the source material, in this little demo video. So you see now what they do, they don't do one position, they do like many, because there's many people and there are only 4, so they do maybe each one of them 3 or 4 different positions. And it's called Dance is a Weapon because it's taken out of an exhibition in a book that was made about those companies in the 30s in America that were quite kind of communist and mixed race and, you know, you see workers. So it's very expressive. So the dancers, they became so good at doing this that at the end I could just bring my photos and they would produce exactly what I was expecting them to do. And because I was not really interested in exactly what they were doing, it was more like the general motion that was interesting me. So it didn't matter if they did, you know, on the left, on the right. What was important was the quality and the dynamic that they were using. Because for me, dynamic is very important in my work. Okay, so I'm getting to the end. Ariane, don't get nervous. I'm almost finished. Okay, Collide at CERN, right? So I'm not going to say what I'm going to do because I don't know exactly, and I'm just starting. So there's those movement generators, and I think this is something plenty of people here, I'm sure, will be able to give me good ideas on that. I think I need to explain them what I do, show them what I do, see if they can come up with some ideas, and then we need to go into my lab, and it's a dance studio, and there is a dance studio in CERN because there's almost everything in CERN, and there is a fantastic dance studio which is in the barracks over there, and they have this club of ballroom dancing. It's fantastic, really nice people, and they let me use their dance studio. So amazingly, there's a dance studio in CERN. And then also there's the question of gravity. I think gravity here is a very also important thing. And, you know, I'm very naive, and I always thought that gravity was the main force, probably like most of the people. And they told me that, no, of course, it's the less important, it's the weakest of all of the forces. And I always thought, and probably as a dancer, that I was just a pile of matter, you know. Because when you do ballet, you kind of reaching for the balance and going up, and when you do contemporary dance, you go down to the ground. So, and then you root, you know. So, and then I realized that it's wrong. It's just not the way it goes. We are holding together like this, yeah. And it's very difficult to take this apart. It's impossible, actually. Almost impossible, or you need to go into the accelerator. So for me, that's kind of really totally changed the way I think about my body into space, how I move into space, but also now I think that my body's, you know, I'm starting to realize that my body is moving into space, with the space, as we are moving all the time, and we are, you know, stardust moving, you know. So that's really kind of blown my mind, and for me, it's a kind of a new paradigm, I think, in the way I'm going to consider my body. I haven't started to experiment in the studio with this, but I think it's something that's going to be long-lasting experimentation. And then there's this thing, do physicists think with their bodies too? I found a quote of Einstein, because Einstein has a quote for everything, and there's one quote that he said that he has some kind of muscular thing when he was thinking. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. So do physicists think with our bodies too? Well, I know one that totally thinks with his body and moves all the time. This is Joao Pequenao, and now I'm passing on to him. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Gilles. Thanks everyone for having come. It's truly a big honor to having been picked as the inspiration partner for such a renowned artist. I was asked to make somehow personal presentation of what my work is. I'm really not used to make presentations too personal, but I'm going to do an exception tonight. So what we try to study at CERN is what is the nature of matter, or if you want, what makes things matter. My line of work is actually to visualize that. So let me tell you where I come from, how I got here, and how we have been evolving over the last few years. So, you know, my mom used to work in a hospital, and of course, like every mom, she wants the best possible for her kids. So the best she knew for me was to become a doctor. But if you would see the subtle clues I was sending when I was 16, 17 years old, like that t-shirt, it was pretty clear that what I wanted to do was to study physics. Of course, my mom was very disappointed. And, well, I went on to, well, you know, getting in the road to become a respected physicist, maybe one day work at CERN or something. And it just so happens that I had a teacher in university that got interested by a hidden talent I had. You know, I had been studying as a hobby computer graphics, and she pretty much told me, "Why don't you do something useful with that, and actually related with the physics you're studying?" So that's how I became multimedia artist. So I ended up graduating in physics, but my line of work has been, and continues to be probably so, in visualization of physics and what is around physics. So having said that, let me tell you how I started. So fast forward a few years, and I was working for the Atlas experiment. So let me tell you what is the Atlas experiment very quickly. So you heard probably about the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider is this 27-kilometer long accelerator. It's actually a ring. And we accelerate particles at incredible energies, and we make them collide at certain points. And these points where we collide them have devices, have apparatuses, which we call experiments. There are four main experiments along the ring of the LHC. One of them is the Atlas experiment. Actually, if you get out of the globe here and you just look to a pretty building that has a beautiful, colorful mural right there, that's one of the surface buildings of the Atlas experiment. You can actually visit the visitor center. It's pretty cool. Go there. So, as I was saying, what happens is that we accelerate these particles at very high energies, and then we collide them inside these devices. And, well, there's stuff that gets out of there, right? And this stuff is the stuff that interests physicists. Now, let me tell you something else about the Atlas experiment. It's not your regular high-end gadget. It's way above that, okay? This is something that is 44 meters long by 25 meters high, that weighs about 7,000 tons, and that was built and is operated by a collaboration of about 3,000 people, which are sprung over 38 countries and belong to one of 174 institutes all over the world. This is huge. I mean, the LHC and the apparatuses that go around this are really the pinnacle of technological and scientific innovation on this planet. It's way beyond what the International Space Station or even the lunar program achieved. It's way more complicated. So, you see that I'm excited about this. Everyone was excited about this even before we built it. So the first thing I ended up visualizing was the actual parts of the detector, the hardware, the gadgets. When you have a cool gadget, whatever it is, you want to show it off, right? That's what we were doing. However, we were showing it off with style. We're using the tools that usually are reserved for artists, and we were trying to make something that is palatable. I choose some very technical images to show you on purpose because this actually is nothing new. I mean, if you look at the 1500s, Italian artists, like this is a drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, they did that. They were the masters of showing cool things that did not exist even at the time, and doing really cool technical drawings which are undoubtedly art. And so is what we do. So this was even before the Atlas detector existed. We did a series of animations showing off, you know, the operation of the detector, how does it detect particles, what we expect to see there. And eventually, we had to go to what are we building this thing for? Which is, as I told you before, to see the stuff that comes out of the collision of particles. So, in my career, I went then to a new phase where I was picking data. In the beginning, simulated data, and actually tried to visualize it. So there was a lot of excitement among the physics community about what could eventually be observed at these experiments. We had a good idea. There were simulations of data. So I'm showing you some renditions of some of these simulated data showing some of the things we expected to find. Like this, for example, is a depiction of a supersymmetric event. So there's this phenomenon, I'm not going there, which is supersymmetry. It's one of the things we think that may be possible to find at the LHC. And if we find it, a supersymmetric event may eventually look a little bit like that. Here's one you have certainly seen. It's actually in the poster of this event. There are a lot of versions of this I've seen around. There's one in the corridor that leads to this room. If you look there, it's a variation of this. You would never tell, but this is actually what an infamous micro black hole looks like. So there was a time where people were asking questions about, well, what about eventually dangerous things that you may see at CERN and so on? Well, one of the things was a black hole. That's what it looks like. It's a fluff ball. I'm not scared of it at all. So, and then, well, they opened the doors of the candy shop, as a colleague of mine said, meaning they flipped on the switch of the accelerator, and we started getting real data. So all this work that physicists and engineers had worked for decades, in many cases, was finally going somewhere. Huh? So I'm going to show you a little animation that, well, you see here the LHC detector. We are crossing the French-Swiss border now. So we are in the beam pipe. This is a proton. In reality, we have billions of them in a bunch at once, but just bear with me. So, and it accelerates at very high energy towards the Atlas experiment, and it collides heads-on with another proton, and there you have it. This is a collision event. So, where this is different from the others I showed you before is that this is real data. This is real data. And it's not just some real data. I actually picked this one in particular because it depicts something that we found this event last year. Depicts something that looks a little bit like, I'm not saying it is, but looks like what a Higgs boson event could eventually look like in case we find it. It's pretty exciting stuff. Stay tuned to the news for the rest of the year. So, this is cool. So we started showing off gadgets, then simulated data, then real data, then what? Then let's make it interactive. So let me show you a little toy that I built with a collaborator, which is called Camellia. This is actually like a simulator of the Atlas experiment in a game-like environment. So you can explore the absence detector in great detail, or you can, if you want, actually load events from a database and even do real analysis about the way light physicists do. Here it is, a collision event. And well, this was me operating this a couple of days ago. And I'm going to find a new particle right there. By the way, this runs on Windows, on the Mac, in an iPad, in an iPhone, on Android, or even in your browser. We are trying to bring visualization of particle physics to the masses. That's you. So another cool thing that Camellia does is let you visualize live events. So you can actually stream data directly from the Atlas experiment and see collisions as they happen, more or less. Well, they happen about 1 billion times a second. Here you see 1 every 5 seconds or so. But you get the idea. You are as close to the action as possible in your cell phone. Okay, so for many years that I've been working on this, we have been small groups of people all over CERN doing separate yet cool things. We were certainly needing a little bit of structure and not needing to reinvent the wheel every time, and have some coherence in the style of what we're presenting and so on. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about the future, which is actually already the present, because we already started this. So the future in visualization and engaging multimedia at CERN is written with 3 words: CERN Media Lab. So this is a new structure, which was funded very recently, but which aims at, among other things, producing interactive media, animations, and content for exhibits. We actually have over our shoulders in the future the production of a lot of content for the CERN exhibits, so stay tuned to it. It's going to be really cool. And just to give you a little taste, because I have to wrap up, here's a simulation of a particle in the Higgs field. I'm not going into that, but just in short, there is this thing, which is the Higgs mechanism, which is by interacting with this Higgs field that the particle gains mass, is one of the things that is in the forefront of our research in particle physics. This is a little simulation with an interactive application that I've been developing. This is just to tell you how we are starting, and now this is where we are heading, and here I'm going to close full circle with the work of Gilles. What if we can give a human dimension to this? What if you can become the particle in the Higgs field? Pretty cool, huh? So, this is me being silly in my office, with my silhouette being captured by a Kinect, which is a device which is actually built for gaming. And I'm in the final stages now. Just give us a couple weeks to actually be able to immerse anyone, me, you, inside the Higgs field. But it's cooler than that, because we actually are building a totally immersive environment where this is one of the many things you will be able to do. So be immersed inside the Higgs field, but you will be able to play proton football, you'll be able to become a quark. I just tell you, stay tuned. So, to be continued. Thank you very much. I guess we are supposed now to sit down in there and have a conversation.
There's one here.
Oh, well.
So we're just going to have a very short conversation, and then we're going to open it up to the floor for you to ask any questions you like. And then after that, there's a cocktail when you can actually get up close and personal to Joao and Gilles and really have a chat with them as well. But I just thought we'd just kick it off and just say, Gilles, why did you want to come to CERN? What inspired you to come here, to actually apply for the residency?
I mean, it was just such an amazing opportunity. It's not something. I'm out? No, I'm back. It's not an opportunity that you can miss. You know, there's a chance once in your lifetime, so you have to apply. And also maybe, you know, for me it started when we did this visit because, you know, I'm from Geneva and people from Geneva don't really realize what is the CERN. And I had some friends coming from America, actually was Carla Scaletti, which co-composed the music with Christian Vogel. And she very much insisted in visiting the CERN, so she organized herself. She did the tour, fantastic, and she booked me the tour. So I went with her and we had Bill Murray, a physicist from Atlas, is playing in us things, and that's how I started. And then we started talking, and then we found a way to get hold of some of the data, of the simulated data, and they started to make music with the data from the simulated data from LHC. So it just seemed obvious.
And just obvious, okay. And you've said already that your idea of your own body is completely changing. And the way you move.
Well, I don't know if the way I move, but the way I understand my, you know, the position of my body, and you know, of course, it's not going to change fundamentally. Like basically, I still will be the same. But I think we have, and we see it here very much, that, you know, when you start to think about things in a different way, then they kind of start to happen somehow. So it's like the image that we have our own body and is, so I think our bodies are changing because of, you know, the society is changing, the way we think the body, the way we travel. I'm very curious, you know about jet lags and stuff like that, you know. So like it's really something that is happening now that has never happened before. So I think we have a different way to understand what is our body when we understand, you know, how it holds together.
And you're learning that it's holding together in a completely different way than you thought. Gravity is a different force.
Yes, I thought I was just a pile of stuff, and now I'm a kind of bounded stuff.
So dancers obviously think with their bodies, but do physicists think with their bodies?
Did you see me moving while I was talking?
Yeah.
I think I answered your question.
And also I know that Joao said earlier on, I'm not going to be able to sit still and I don't want to sit on stage. I can't. I want to be moving. He's probably one of the most physical people I know. So it's going to be a really intriguing investigation looking at other physicists within the whole group and seeing how they move. What are you hoping to capture?
Well, one of the things that I was amazed in with the people I'd met is that everybody talks about collision here, and they all have a special way to express collision. So some they do like this, some they do like this, some they do like this, and some they even do like this because they're interested in the little parts that go like this. So they all have these different styles, and there's even some people that are kicking them, like in the LHC control room, they kick protons, and you know. So it's and maybe it's because, you know, you need movement to express yourself and to be understood. I think it's and now I'm starting to recognize people in the city from CERN when they talk about things. The way they do move, and I'm like, oh, you're from the CERN.
There you go. So everybody watch out. So Joao, why did you want to work with Gilles? I mean, you're obviously about movement yourself. You're about the visualization of movement of particles. But was there other reasons why you wanted to be working and starting on this journey of creative collisions with Gilles as an inspiration partner?
So, first of all, the concept of collision, even as it is in particle physics, works more or less like this. You have particles at very high energy. When they collide, you get energy. I mean, you have energy, which is the currency in which you deal matter. You see E equals mc squared, and you have energy there, and then anything can come out of there, which is not necessarily related to what you initially collided. So what I'm expecting from this collaboration is that we collide, and then there's a lot of energy that will be the result of this collision, and then anything can happen.
So, there you have it. So, this is a good opportunity.
Maybe we'll find the Higgs.
Ooh, maybe you will find the Higgs. Maybe you are the Higgs field. Anyway, it would be great to, if you want to ask any questions now, this is an ideal moment, right at the beginning of this collision, to ask some questions of Gilles and Joao. So if you've got any questions, do raise your hand, and a microphone will be coming shortly towards you. Ooh, there's a question right at the back. Right at the back.
Hi there, my name's Kian. I work in the communications department. I have a question for Joao. So in my work, sometimes I write about concepts in physics, and I look for metaphors in order to explain difficult concepts. Do you find that with your visualizations, you ever come across a theoretical concept in physics which doesn't seem to work visually and needs to be approached from a different angle? How do you go about that?
Every time. Last time was this morning. I mean, we actually have, that's a very interesting question, because we actually are right now in a phase where we are producing a series of animations exactly describing physics concepts, which are, as you say, very difficult to express, and we have a working group which is discussing this. And yeah, so the short answer is yes. The long answer is yes.
Okay. And the next short question.
Hello. I would like to ask about something that perhaps joins these fields, these two fields that are put a little bit separate. So one of the things is the notion of abstraction. Perhaps it's a question that will take a lot of that struggle between the short and the long answer. But there is something about our capacity of in both of these fields of work symbolically, and at the same time to come up with this pattern that connects certain ideas. So how would you approach these two fields in a way that are maybe talking perhaps about the same thing, about an embodiment, about being alive and the nature of reality, but at the same time there is this perhaps two ways of abstracting.
So I would say two things. So first, one thing that we have in common a lot is that we are both trying to visualize something. Only I'm trying to visualize physics phenomena and what goes around it. And there are bounds on that. There are rules, because we are at CERN and we are trying to be precise besides being artistic in what we do. And Gilles does not have that kind of bounds. But yeah, I think he may answer that better for his side, but I think he also has the intention of creating a strong visual impression on the people that see his work. So the other thing I would like to say is that the two characteristics that I think that connect art and science are creativity and interpretation. What I mean is this. Scientists are trying to interpret, nature. They're trying to interpret how stuff works, how the world works. And for that, they try to create models, and they have to be creative about the way they go about that. So they are interpreting the world, and they use creativity to do that. Never mind that they use different tools from the artists. Never mind that the subject is different, but artists are doing precisely the same. They are trying to interpret something. It may be an idea. It may be something concrete, like when you see a portrait of Rembrandt, it's something concrete. There was someone sitting there that was being painted by him. Or it may be an abstraction of that. I mean, when you see the women that Picasso painted, you don't really believe that they had a nose here and the eyes like tilted like that. It's an interpretation. So, and they have to be creative as well doing that. So I think these are the things that connect art and science.
For me, the capacity of abstraction is what's really fascinating. I find really fascinating. And in my application, I was talking about master of abstraction, like being embedded with the master of abstraction. And the more I know, the more I discover. And the more amazing it becomes, and I'm starting to see that here they make the theory and then they try to find out about the reality of their theory. So there's always this kind of movement of going forward and then having the proof, and so is a very different way to work than us, of course, artists, because we are totally subjective and probably science is objective, but. Maybe not that much. Maybe there's also some power of subjectivity in science, and of course here there's all the existential questions that are literally mind blowing, and all the mysteries, and also all the belief things that just is. There's many things that you hear and that you feel around, but here people are really serious about what they do and very passionate and very precise and. They really research. I mean, the broom that is made for research and for searching in science, we don't have any equivalent. Especially in dance, maybe another art form, but in dance, here in Switzerland is not academic. It's starting, but it's really now it will start. In the United States, you have more. I've been in contact through this project with dancers that are physicists. There's even contemporary dancers, some ballet dancers, some of them are working at CERN. I tell you, there's everything at CERN. There's some ballet dancers that are physicists, but there's also some dancers that have been trained as physicists. So there's this crossover. For us, unfortunately, we're a little bit still kind of separate, and I think we come a bit from the Petit Rat de l'Opéra still. But it's changing. Time is changing.
One last question, if anybody wants one. Well, I think it's probably a good opportunity then for you to come and meet Gilles and Joao now. We're going to have a cocktail. And what I would say, this is the beginning of the creative collisions between Joao and Gilles. You'll be able to follow it online on the CERN website. They will be blogging together during the 3 months of the process of the collisions here. So you'll be able to keep track of it yourself, own little collider. And then in October, there's a final lecture when you'll be able to find out how those ideas have developed. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the evening and meeting Gilles and Joao and the CERN scientists who are here with you.
Thank you.